calling down for the government to step down.
It's not the
On
first
such
time.
levels, though.
On the such level.
It's on such level,
Sure,
yes.
that's unprecedented.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Pride.
It's absolutely beautiful.
I think there is, I mean, on Tuesday, people are saying we're not less than Tunisia.
Right.
We're not less careful about our dignity. We're not less careful about or caring about our country. And we deserve a better country. We deserve a better person than this one in power.
And the greatest thing about Tuesday is it was not really under the auspices of any party. There were people who are extremely rich on the street, people who are extremely poor, people who are extremely cultured and educated, people who are ignorant. All sectors of the Egyptian population were on the street that day. They did not take an order from anyone. They followed their instinct.
No, but that's quite interesting, isn't it? The fact that there was no politician, no political party. I know the government keeps saying the Muslim Brotherhood was behind it, but actually, in fact, they've pretty much stepped back.
I really think people had lost hope in the change through the streets in the past decades. But with what happened in Tunisia, that brought up back the idea that, you know what, the power of the people does work. And this is what Egyptian people believe, and this is being reflected in the streets. And people are persistent, and they're not gonna, give up until they're respected, they're heard, and their demands are met.
Let's put that to Fida again. In Tunisia, the same thing occurred in Tunisia. There was no particular party or leader pushing these demonstrations. Fida, what happens now? The fact that your president has left the country, but you don't really have a stable government or leadership in place. What do you think the impact is going to be?
Yes, actually, political parties and politicians followed the crowd. When the crowd uprose, then they spoke. So now there is a lot of differences and a lot of fractions. But I think that a lot of people are convinced that this government won't be the one that will bring us democracy, because this prime minister we have has been always the prime minister of Ben Ali, and because this government has a lot of people that were in the era of Ben Ali, in the RCD party, the party that was oppressive to people. And now we think that we should get rid of these symbols of that oppressive rule, and then we will reach democracy.
Okay, so similar problem here. If Hosni Mubarak steps down, who's likely to replace him? Who doesn't reflect the old regime?
This is completely and utterly irrelevant.
Yes.
I think we are a population that needs to learn how to give birth to leadership and how to choose it. And as long as Hosni Mubarak is in power, we are incapable of doing this. If the people do not succeed, the angel of death will definitely succeed very soon. And I think we'll go through the same question. So why don't we just ask the question now and face our destiny now?
What about Mohammed al-Baradei? He touched down back in Egypt on Thursday. He was once, at one stage, the great hope.
I think he missed a great opportunity about being in Egypt, in Cairo, in the street on Tuesday. What al-Baradei represented, in my opinion, was missing link. Okay, this is the alternative. What happened in Tunisia and what happened in the street is actually you don't need an alternative. We can, like Amr was saying, we can create the alternative. He can, put up his credentials and people will choose. He's not leading this. No one is leading this. He's not a leader. There is no leader of the movement. I think this contributed very well to its success. People took ownership of it, and they determined to make it succeed, because this is not going to any political party. This is not going to be a political gain of the leadership or political milieu or anything. This is ours. We're going to stand our ground until our demands are met.
But if you have no opposition in the country,
it's not about opposition.
It is about that now. Now this is about opposition. This is about breaking the fear barrier of opposition, making the opposition participate, making the people participate.
Do you think the opposition will support al-Baradei?
The people are the opposition of the government. I mean, this is the people.
Okay, so
want,
who amongst the people can take leadership now?
that's for the people to choose. I mean, I can't possibly speak on behalf of all the Egyptians on what they hope, but I know as an Egyptian, I want certain demands.
Okay, what are they?
About like freedom of, I mean, I can list freedom of political participation, religious freedom.
Remove emergency law.
Remove of emergency law.
No president can run for more than
We
2 times.
want the basic human rights, minimum wage for all these workers to, you know, live a humane life. We
Re-elect
want
The
re-elect
disparities
both
are enormous
houses.
in this
disparity,
country.
the
They're not
corruption,
actually,
end
they're
of
not.
corruption.
I mean, the great demand on the street on Tuesday and all the past days were 3 demands: bread, freedom, and human dignity. And I
Yes.
think these are very simple things, and they are able to capture the aspiration and the hope of people. There's not much. I mean, all this contribute to the freedom part, all this contribute to the bread part and the dignity part.
yeah.
So if Hosni Mubarak says, okay, I'll give it to you,
He leaves. He
he
leaves.
still leaves.
Yeah.
He has to leave.
He has to leave.
What do you think of the US response to what's been happening
I think
here?
the United States, and to a certain extent, a lot of the international community has put the Egyptian people in the situation they're in today. They've been supporting a corrupt regimes in the region because it fits them best. Now, for the United States, it's time to side with the Egyptian people. It's time to stop supporting a regime that their people do not want, and they have to start using their power to get the regime down with the Egyptian people.
Because they're in
And
a
it's-
difficult position, aren't they? Because
really-
they're calling for democracy. But yet he's
Right.
he's an
It's
important ally
hypocrisy.
for the US.
It's
in this region.
hypocrisy, and it shows
It's
in
called
the
hypocrisy,
in many
exactly.
of
There's a word for that,
right.
called
It's
hypocrisy.
called hypocrisy, and it shows in a lot of the U.S. foreign policy and how it deals with the Middle East in general. It picks and chooses who to support, even though this is a dictatorship and this is a dictatorship. But I think the American people have a lot to do as well, because this is their tax money that's going towards a dictatorship like Mubarak. And I have a lot of American friends, and they support me, they support a lot of the activists, and they have really shown, you know, through solidarity, through the social networks, or even through phone calls, that they want a free Egypt, and they want Egyptians to live a humane life. So who's really, you know, backstabbing us all?
Fida, let me ask you about the response to the US in your country. The US supported Ben Ali. He's a dictator. He's left the country. What now for your country's relationship with America?
That question has been delicate because not only the US, even France